Hey guys, welcome to our new episode, Revenue Ops and ABM Alignment. We have today Jeppe, right?
Yes,
I
correct. It's
pronounced it
now.
well, from
Yeah,
Pleo.
you did.
Great. So, Pleo.com, smart spending. I was seeing these guys all the time at Saster.
Yeah,
Was going to them because they were having really, really good cookies and very happy and smart people at Saster. Actually, Denmark is one of the happiest. You guys are one of the happiest in the world, right?
yeah, yeah. We keep fighting on the first place,
Yeah.
but I think we are first or second every year.
And I suppose now even happier because FC Copenhagen qualified after many, many years in the Champions League, right? From second place.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That depends on if you're a FC Copenhagen football fan, but
yeah, I
that's
suppose
no
all
another
Danish
discussion.
people are really proud now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But besides football and all of that, Lego is Denmark.
yeah,
Really great place in how you call it, Lindum, or what's the name of
yeah,
the
yeah.
city?
Yeah, I can't even remember. It's the lower part of Jutland, right? It's in the middle of nowhere, but they managed to spin up this amazing company building Legos.
So a lot of great startup. We were talking just now about Aarhus and the whole innovation in audio and in music, and you told me about Copenhagen in medical. So there are a small country with a lot of entrepreneurs with a lot of interesting things, and also Pleo is one of the European startups that is leading the way in fintech. Today we will talk about RevOps and all of the go-to markets on different audiences and different actual ICPs that you guys have. I want to pick your brain a little bit on figuring out actually how you can run and how you run the GTMs for so many different industries. But before we dive in, would be great to get to know you a little bit better. And first of all, tell us, how did you end up in RevOps, and did you ever know that you will direct your career towards RevOps, because it's something new, right?
yeah. I think I can start saying that's a clear no. I studied finance and statistics at the university,
Hmm.
and took the kind of maybe the traditional route for a person with that background, going into consultancy as a management consultant. Um, Worked 5-6 years as a management consultant, focusing a lot on process optimization, process transformation. Did a lot
Hmm.
of processes in banks. Actually started out with outsourcing advisory, so how can we outsource processes to low cost countries, but then moved more towards uh, automating processes using software robotics. So I was actually one of the first one in the Nordics and Europe to work with software robotics and implemented that in a lot of different organizations, bank, public sectors. Um, and then I already always had a kind of an interest of technology. Um, I then found out that the consultancy industry was not for me. It didn't fit a family life with small kids. So I took a
Hmm.
job in the Danish pension fund, being responsible for their software robotics center as a product owner. But it was not a fit. I think I was having too much energy in terms of this big, slow organization. So there was a company, what is called organization structure, where I was
Hmm.
offered another role but turned it down. And then I came to a place in life like, what do I really want to do? And talked to a coach who challenged me and saying, yeah, but I always wanted to do startups. And she's saying, yeah, but
Hmm.
why don't you? Why can you not
Hmm.
work at a startup? And I'm saying, yeah, but my role is so specific. I'm doing specific thing. So that would not fit into a startup. And she kind of challenged me to kind of saying, yeah, but you need to validate it. You need to talk to some people in different startups and say to validate why not. And,
Hmm.
and that was a good challenge. I reached out to. I think it was actually the first person I reached out to was one guy I used to work with back in the days, and I think he replied, "Yeah, but I'm looking for people. Are you up for drinking coffee? And then I think I signed a contract 1.5 weeks after. So it was kind of just by coincidence. I ended up in Pleo and ended up what was back then called commercial operation or commercial analytics. That then in Pleo terms have evolved over time. I think I started as employee number 3 or 4 in that
Mm-hmm.
department, and then it kind of developed over time to having a RevOps department of what is plus 30 people at this point in time. So
Wow.
it is a bit of coincident hitting here, but looking back, I can definitely see it fits and check a lot of the check marks for me in terms of technology operation. Um, I used to in the past do a lot of cost optimizations, right? As consultant automating things, it was around removing cost, where revenue operation is equally how can we increase the top line. And I
Yeah, because
think
you
that is
worked at
also,
Big Four, right? Like
yeah.
in.
So started
Mm-hmm.
at Ernst and Young, and then moved
Mm-hmm.
into a Danish consultancy called Implement Consulting. Um, so it's I like the part of also focusing on the top line. It kind of gives a bit more nice feel to it than just removing cost, right? Because then you're just totally the bad guy all the time, cutting
Yeah.
down people or processes, right?
Uh, but I'm curious how you guys ended up with 30 people in RevOps. I want to dig deeper into that. But
Yeah,
before that, you were one of the first employees in a quite successful startup. Maybe you can tell us a bit about Pleo, so the
yeah,
listeners can understand the level of complexity that you guys have
yeah,
in RevOps.
yeah. So basically, Pleo is what we call a smart spend management solution. It started out with us focusing on expense management. So
Mm-hmm.
saying whenever you do expenses in a company, you typically have to do expense reporting. So you have to
Yeah,
submit
tell me about it.
information.
Like when I worked in electronics, I was going crazy with these Excel files and reporting each and
Yeah,
every cost, and they had a very shitty corporate software, and
yeah.
everybody was hating that software. And
And
yeah.
and this is the nice thing about this with Pleo, because talking to people, you rarely meet someone who have worked in a big corporation that haven't felt that pain, right? So everyone kind of like, okay, yeah, I can totally recognize the pain of doing expense management. What Pleo was one of the first companies to do was to kind of connect the expense management part with a smart credit card. There's a lot of
Okay.
companies doing it today, but Pleo was kind of one of the first. And that basically means that Pleo actually consists of two companies, a bank that has an e-money license and a SaaS
Mm-hmm.
company, where the bank issues a credit card, and
Mm-hmm.
the SaaS company kind of provides a piece of software to track the expenses.
Got
So
it.
basically, the purpose of Pleo is to empower the people of the organization,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of saying, yeah, but you trust people access to a lot of data, but you don't trust them to go down and buy a piece of a cup of coffee. You
Mm-hmm.
need to set all sorts of this. So can we just give you a credit card and then create transparency?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we didn't work that much with spend limits and all these things of approval flows and things like that. It has come as the product has matured, but that was the intention behind the product to start with. So basically, it works that you get a credit card, and because Pleo owns the credit card and the expense management software, it kind of pulls in all the information and checks that, okay, Jeppe, you're allowed to spend X amount of money on your
Mm-hmm.
card on a daily basis or a monthly basis, and then it pulls it directly into the app. So the second I swipe my credit card at
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks, it checks, okay, you are allowed to spend this money, and then it pings my telephone saying you just spent this amount of money. Please take a picture of the receipt, and then done. Then you
Mm-hmm.
kind of haven't have to do anything more.
Okay, and
So
this reporting is sent to the ERP systems of
exactly,
the.
exactly. So this
Uh-huh.
is a,
Got it.
a big part of our business is also integrating to different accounting systems,
Mm-hmm.
and different banks. The product had then evolved over time to also handle vendor cards to track vendor management.
Mm-hmm.
A really nice feature that I like, uh, sitting in RevOps and paying for a lot of tools, is kind of what we call fetch. So it
Mm-hmm.
constantly check my inbox if I get a receipt, and then I just get a notification saying your credit card has been deducted $100. I found the receipt and matched it. done.
Oh wow.
Then we're also doing invoice payments through the
Mm-hmm.
platform. We have a few credit products, so overdraft on the credit cards and working that way. So a lot of different value streams and revenue streams, plus two companies, plus a lot of KYC, so know your customer, because we're a
Mm-hmm.
financial
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
institution that
fraud
also
and so on. Mm-hmm.
exactly, yeah. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of complexity
So
from
so
the
you were at the beginning of the company, and you were already doing RevOps, or how the whole RevOps team evolved, or because
yeah.
I'm asking you because I see a lot of founders that maybe at the beginning don't see the value of RevOps, right? Like you need to grow a bit.
Yeah, I think now we're saying beginning. I think I joined as employee number 200. So
Uh-huh.
Pleo had a size of being quite big. What
Mm-hmm.
RevOps was actually, it was more back then, was more a combination of reporting and system management, so CRM management. So
Okay.
it
So
was a lot in
CRM
terms of,
admin basically.
yeah, exactly, and then
Uh-huh.
reporting, paying out commissions and things like that.
Okay.
So you would say not that a strategic advisor, but
Mm-hmm.
more an admin role, and then also doing a lot of reporting. So at some
Okay.
point, the original RevOps team, the commercial operation team, was actually split out to be commercial analytics and
Mm-hmm.
commercial operation, because it was kind of two different disciplines of reporting in our BI tool versus managing our CRM system. However, these go hand in hand because a lot of the data that they were using, we were producing.
Okay. So then obviously first is for the reporting, but when it and how did it become strategic, because you mentioned that initially it was just admin, and when they hired you, or there was some kind of advisors, or
No,
how did they realize?
I think I don't know if we that did the definition right. Are we strategic now? I would say yes, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's not something that has happened from one day to the other. I think we kind of justified our seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So having hired some people, and I don't think I can take credit of this, but people hired above me that
Mm-hmm.
definitely know what impact different things are doing in terms of the bigger picture. So
Mm-hmm.
they having a seat on the table all the way up in terms of also being asked when we want to do something, like what is the impact on revenue? What is the impact of um, commission? What is the impact of systems, applications? All these things need to be taken into consideration before they're actually making any choice in terms of saying, do we want to enter this country? Do we want to like segment differently? Do we want to redistribute leads? Do we want to go product led, sales led? All these different actions. RevOps is included more in terms of making those decisions.
Actually, that's a good point. Let's demystify a little bit this, like admin, because a lot of people, they say CRM admin, but actually they label it as RevOps, and it's not RevOps, right? Because it's sexy, right? Like it's sexier to say RevOps than CRM admin. And let's understand. On one side we have CRM admin, and on the other side we have a RevOps department, which is strategical also, right? So how would you differentiate the two?
I think um, I think there's actually two places where you need to look in, right? There's the strategic, and I think that is where the team is actually pushing in terms of what direction do we need to go, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not just saying we are going in that direction, fix the system so it match, right? So if you're managed to point or support in the decision of what direction do we need to go, then you're kind of the strategic ones, right? That is taking a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then there's the other one where I see a lot of job posts, right, where they're hiring for RevOps, but the RevOps is reporting to the head of sales or something
Yeah.
like that. And I think, in
Sales
my
ops.
view, the important things about RevOps is that you're moving from silos of marketing ops, sales ops, and CX ops, and
Mm-hmm.
potentially support ops, right? And having a view across the entire funnel. So when I'm from a system perspective, looking, I'm saying, yeah, but you need to to know and understand the whole customer journey across all the systems, because elsewhere you end up with people optimizing from marketing, for sales, and for CX. And this is also where Pleo came from, right? We had someone in CX doing a bit of their own, someone in sales doing a bit of their
Yeah.
own, and someone in marketing. And they were optimizing to make a really good silo there, but all the valuable information they did and the decision they took didn't kind of feed it good into the next bucket, right? So
Mm-hmm.
both the sales didn't know all the information, and they could maybe take choices over there saying, yeah, but we're going to send a lot of these leads, but sales saying, yeah, but they're not converting. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, right? So I think the most important for a RevOps perspective is actually looking at the whole funnel. If you manage to look at the whole funnel, then you also have a lot more knowledge and be able to take these long-term directions in terms of getting at a seat at the big table.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so having a know-how of the customer journey, the full customer journey, and obviously what I keep saying is that you need to know what are the boots on the ground activities for each and every role, right? So you need to know what exactly, how are those activities done on marketing side, you know, the whole process of from creating a landing page to segmenting to setting up lead nurturing workflows and so on. Then you need to really understand the sales, like how the qualification runs, how the pipeline it's managed, how do you push the pipeline, what are the each and every required fields or the activities that you need for each and every deal stage, and in the same time how you onboard, what are the steps to onboard. So and then what are those critical events and what is the impact that you track, so that you can refer back from customer success to sales again or account management, right? So RevOps overall, it's more complex, but what allows you to do is to control and to see the full customer journey. If you don't see the full customer journey, then most probably you don't do RevOps.
Yeah,
Maybe you do marketing ops, or you do GTM ops if you just run go to market or campaigns, right? Or maybe you do just customer success, right? So
exactly.
it's really important to understand it. Good. So you guys now have, when I look at your website, if I scroll down to the footer and I
Yeah,
look at solutions, right? I look at solution. You have startups, small businesses, large businesses, agencies, healthcare, retail, technology, and transport, right?
yeah.
Now, how do you organize your RevOps teams to actually run so many GTM on so many industries? Give
Yeah.
us a breakdown of the team.
Our RevOps is actually not that much catered towards the different segments in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Our RevOps is more focused on the different disciplines. So we run what is
Disciplines.
called
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we run what is called an operating model at Pleo that is kind of a matrix organization where we have
Mm-hmm.
domains and competencies. So a domain could be a specific area. For example, do we have a domain regarding partnerships? So these are targeting accounting partners, but this domain consists of people from different competencies, meaning that in
Okay.
that domain that could both be salespeople, that could be CX people, that could be RevOps people focusing on partnerships, that could be engineering focusing
Mm-hmm.
on how to optimize the product towards that specific uh, problem area, if you can say so.
So
Um,
domains, you would say it's similar to channels, like if
yeah,
you have a
yeah.
part. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So today we have a domain in terms of partnerships, mid-market, and small business, like three main domains that kind of leads into our overall go-to-market CAC domain.
Okay,
Uh,
that's smart. So basically, the chat, you take this domain slash
yeah,
channel, and you look, okay, if it's a small business, then
yeah,
I need these competencies. If
yeah,
it's more enterprise, obviously you need higher competencies, especially on sales, let's say, or CX. Then
Yeah.
you organize that. Okay. So there are some kind of squads, right? Like
Yeah,
these
yeah.
teams.
So
Okay.
basically, we have different teams in sales and CX that is focusing on supporting these, where it's what you can say more skilled people hiring managing the higher target customers. So the bit
Mm-hmm.
more revenue the customer going to bring in, the more value do we spend on serving them, right?
Got it.
Both in terms of time. So it's always a discussion in terms of the low value, how little effort can we spend on them and still giving them a good experience, right? Because ideally everything should just be product led and we shouldn't spend any human resources on onboarding and nurturing them. But on the other hand, we also have a really complex process where people needs to validate themselves with authentication and send in company registration informations. They need to transfer money and things like that. So 100% product led, we're working on it and we have customer going through, but a lot of them is kind of what we would call sales nurtured, where we sales is assisted, right? To support that segment.
So more like a facilitation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, for example, if you want to run a campaign, yeah, like you run
Yeah,
a go to market, and you say, okay, I want to choose, I don't know, transportation, right? So there is a campaign on transportation. You choose the domain. So you choose, okay, transportation mid market, right? And then this squad team works with someone who is subject matter expert in that particular
yeah, but
solution, or is more around, so solution doesn't really matter.
yeah, but I think actually our segment is more looking at company size at the moment,
Okay.
because you have industries and there's industries where there's a really good fit. However, uh, expense management is kind of an issue for everyone, right?
Yeah.
There's companies that has a lot of expenses that is have a bit more potential, but the expense management process in itself is the same. So the sales process and CX process is not catered around um, different segments or industries. However, the
Mm-hmm.
marketing are during specific campaigns where they're saying now we're targeting certain industries or certain personas. But this is where we have a big marketing department that is has a really advanced setup in terms of saying how can we go after a specific customer type. But I should be careful of giving out the details because I'm far from the
Yeah, yeah,
expert.
yeah. I
Um,
just want to understand. Okay, the marketing team comes and
yeah,
say, okay, let's go mid market. This is the campaign
yeah.
for the sake of solution transportation. Uh, and how do they cooperate with you? They come with a project requirements. You have some kind of guidelines or rules for any new campaign. How's the cooperation with the RevOps team?
There, it is actually running quite, if you can say, on the side. So RevOps is not involved in any of the running of the campaigns.
Okay.
So they kind of marketing is running the campaign. RevOps is more creating the framework from saying, okay, if you want a campaign, then these are the requirements that we set. So all leads needs to go through certain criteria. They need to, depending on if it's online, then they need to have
Mhm.
a flow, a form, whatever. But running the campaigns becomes more and more a marketing thing that RevOps actually don't support with. So we're trying to always see RevOps as someone that creates the framework and the guidelines, but
Mhm.
the job itself shouldn't sit in RevOps because we will never be as smart as marketing people to know how to target and who to target. But we can kind of set the guidelines to saying, yeah, but if you want to run a campaign and push in a shitload of leads into our system, yeah, but we require that you have this, and this information, because if you don't do that, we will not be able to route them to sales 3 steps down, or we will not be able to do attribution or things like that.
Okay,
So
got it.
so we're trying to say we create the framework, you do the job where you're the experts.
Okay. So tell us an example. What could be in one of these guidelines? Like let's go with this example. Yeah, mid-market transport. Marketing comes to you. We are running this, and they ask for the framework. Maybe the
Yeah.
framework is ready, or
I
you
think
make them. How is it?
I think a perfect example is like as we are segmented based on company size. One of
Mm-hmm.
the most important informations is how can we get the company size to know how to route the companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of the requirements that we are setting up for marketing is saying, yeah, but when you are sourcing a lead, then this is the information that is needed. We need to know what country they're from and what segment they're in, right? Because if we don't
Mm-hmm.
have that information, we're not able to route this to any relevant people. We're not able to kind of tailor the experience for them to kind of continue in the flow. And then they just end up kind of stuck in our CRM system
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And
So like
I also,
ICP.
yeah, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. But I think we also have to acknowledge the saying, I can say what we are intending to do. Is it working perfectly? No, of course not.
Of course, but as an idea, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
this helps the listeners understand. Okay, what should be those guidelines, or
yeah,
what should be that framework
yeah,
for any marketing team?
yeah, yeah. And one of the things that we are working on now is also creating a bit more assessment from, for example, our SDRs, that is booking meetings, and them of being more mature in kind of qualifying the meetings in terms of using a medic framework to kind of qualify and saying, I need to know these informations before I pass it on. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's kind of how can we as RevOps make sure that they can easily work with that framework, collect the information, and pass on this information on to the sales rep that is going to handle the meeting.
Okay. And so you have a methodology of like a sales methodology,
Yeah,
like Medic or
yeah,
Spice used by
yeah,
Winning by Design,
yeah,
chosen most probably by the sales leaders,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
you and the sales leaders build some kind of framework on how to actually do the qualification. And now you are the guardians, or let's say you are spoon feeding these SDRs, like, okay,
Yeah,
this is how, these are the criterias,
yeah,
and this is how you can adopt it in,
yeah,
you guys use HubSpot, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that we just have to acknowledge is saying CRM hygiene and maintenance is not anyone's favorite job, right? So we
Yeah.
need to saying how can we make it as easy and simple as possible, so we get the right information at the right point in time, uh, and some information we can pull. Um, this is also where it becomes a bit complex for us because we both do inbound, purely product led, where
Mm-hmm.
things comes into our product and is pushed into our HubSpot instance and kind of can create a deal and move through deal stages without anyone touching it. And then a sales led approach where we are targeting the customer and bringing them on, right? But a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times it becomes some kind of hybrid where
Yeah.
sales is reaching out, they get them onto a trial, testing the product, and then they are floating a bit around between sales and kind of, yeah, but actually they managed to do the product and completed all the steps,
Mm-hmm.
but they are still working on a contract. So this is where we have a lot of the complexity in the cross sphere of product versus sales led, because you can do product at 100%, but typically when sales are involved, when should you actually pull the trigger and saying they're in a customer on a whatever pricing plan they are, or are we trying to sell them a deal on a contract?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have a source for marketing when they tell you the ICP. You have some kind of assessment for the SDRs.
Yeah.
And when it comes to mainly on, let's say, lead scoring or engagement, is it like something like across all the sizes, or you have it separately for each
Um,
size?
this is one where we are not that mature yet. We're working
Mm-hmm.
on the lead score. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
as we speak, it's been a project for this, but the lead score is going to go across all segments. So we're not going
Uh-huh.
to have different lead score per segment.
Okay.
But we're gonna have someone where saying, yeah, but if it's not within, if it's within the low tier segment, despite
Mm-hmm.
having a high lead score, we're not gonna act on it because the cost of converting it don't justify the value that it's potentially going to bring in the end.
Okay, got it. So and when it comes to attribution, sits with you, or how do you deal with attribution?
It sits in RevOps. It has been something that has been really complex, and we've actually tried implementing a new attribution setup, something that we built on the side, not running based on HubSpot native attribution. Um, so we are hopefully at a better place now, but it's we're definitely not best in class in terms of attribution. It is a really difficult discipline, if you ask me.
You use Dream Data or this guy Hackstack, or what's their name?
No, we this one is only the deal attribution based on where they're coming from. If it's inbound or outbound, and what sources are we sourcing them from? Are they coming from advertisements on Facebook, LinkedIn, or are they coming from lead providers like Leadspace, Lusha, all of these different
Okay.
tools on the market, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, for example? Like what data, like where does this contact got created from? What is the source of the contact? And is it actually qualified to become a paying customer?
And when it comes to the whole reporting, right? Like you will be the one responsible for that reporting in the with the
Nope,
top
nope,
management, or
nope.
each and every
We actually
department head.
have part of the RevOps is we have some reporting team, if you can say so, that is doing all the reporting. So we actually split it up. So we have some report in HubSpot. Basically, the intention that the reports that we have in HubSpot is for people working in HubSpot. So a sales rep or a manager that which daily tasks are in
Yeah.
HubSpot, they should also be able to see their reporting in HubSpot. Then we have another set of reports being towards top management that we are doing in Looker, our BI tool, which kind of sits in another team. So they're doing all the the reporting on another level, and this is typically where we are combining data outside HubSpot as well. Um, we can challenge that and saying, yeah, but we are getting more and more data into HubSpot, so could we build all of it? Yes, potentially at some point, but it's also fine keeping it outside to
Yeah,
simplify
depends
things.
what you want, because we have the same challenge, right? Like
Yeah,
if you if even your account, if you want accounting type of data, right?
yeah,
Like and that's really hard to integrate, only if now you have these payments and Stripe
yeah.
integration, which is not everyone very happy about that, to give that commission to Stripe. So it depends. Like, but usually what kind of data you pull into Looker? You have HubSpot, I suppose, right?
Yeah, we have HubSpot. It's primarily commercial data, HubSpot, and then it's a combination of product data. So all the products
Mm-hmm.
that we have in our backend, and then it could be what you can say user data. So targets
Mm-hmm.
on reps, performance
So
on
you
reps,
use the mix panel or segment, or what do you guys
segment.
use? Segment, okay.
Yeah,
So you are looking at like what are those metrics that are important from the product, and
product
how
can
do you
be.
pull that if you pull it back to HubSpot? Give
In we have what is called hub and spoke model with all our product data. So
mm-hmm,
all the product data and data from commercial tools is located in BigQuery, and it's pulled out via Fivetran from the commercial tools, and typically via segment or something like that from the product. And then we use a reverse ETL tool called Census to push it back into HubSpot. There is yeah, there is. I think there's 3 or 4 different tools on the market doing something similar. So High Touch, Census, Wilt.
so explain me a little bit, how does this work? Like how do
That
you
is
pull it?
basically you have a table in BigQuery, and then
Mm-hmm,
it's just a drag and drop tool. So instead of having a developer, you can drag and saying, yeah, but this is the matching ID. So this is the company ID, and the the property saying health score, or
mm-hmm,
like one of our milestones is FDD. That's the financial due diligence. That's a
okay,
date stamp. Whenever that is in the table, then you just map it and saying that needs to go into the property on the HubSpot company called FTD. And then this
Okay, you
tool
map it.
kind of just handle the mapping and sync the data in every time it's updated in the table. So it's simply just
Got it.
pushing data from a table into HubSpot based on a mapping. So it's handling the mapping between your database and your HubSpot instance.
Okay. And then you use this data somehow in HubSpot? Do you do
Yeah,
segmentations, or what do you do with
we
this data?
typically, a lot of the things we're doing is a task for the reps in terms of saying, oh, this customer have done XYZ, but it
Mm-hmm.
seems like they haven't progressed to the next step. Call them and reach out. We are
Uh-huh.
doing deal movements, so saying, yeah, but when they have completed X milestones, we move the deal to the next deal steps. If they have done XYZ, then we move them to the next deal step.
Okay.
We are also doing customer communication,
Mm-hmm.
so onboarding flows and things like that is also done based on census data. Um, yeah,
You do some customer success like NPS or anything like that?
yeah, we're also doing NPS, but that is not done via census or something pushed in there. We're running it in our yeah. We have a lot of different NPS tools, so we're running a bit. Some part of the business use one NPS tool, and some part of the other one. So that's one of the project on the roadmap is to kind of consolidate
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
what NPS tool to use.
But onboarding happens in HubSpot, or it happens
Uh,
outside of HubSpot?
we have a dedicated CX tool, as we call it, called
Mm-hmm.
Vitally.
How?
Vitally.io. It's kind of a competitor of PlanHat and what are the other uh, big CX platforms that
Mm-hmm.
is really good at looking at customer data.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is where the onboarding team, as you would call them, sits and validate how did they manage to complete all the milestones and reach out and call.
Okay, got it. So you have segment, you take the data, you put it in Looker. From segment, you also push it to using this tool,
Yeah, census.
Census.
Yeah,
You push it for commercial reasons. So
yeah,
on before they are closed somehow, right?
yeah,
Or when they
yeah.
are in a trial or whatever.
Yeah, actually, completely during the lifetime of the customer, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that is um, that is where we're pushing data. So as soon as they are in the product, we start pushing them into HubSpot, and then we keep pushing information in until they churn as a customer.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you also push it to this CX tool
CX tool. Yeah,
so that the guys are making sure
yeah,
that the tool is
yeah,
adopted.
yeah. Exactly.
They don't churn, so you keep track of these,
Yeah,
and then this CX tool is integrated with HubSpot, I suppose.
yeah. Both HubSpot, but also with Census. So we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to say we don't want that many tools connected both to the product and to our CMS system. Because if something
Mm-hmm.
then is failed, like where's the error then coming from? So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
would
yeah.
actually prefer to have what this hub and spoke model, where all products goes, all data goes from the tool up to BigQuery, and then BigQuery is the single source of truth, and then down. So we don't have
Yeah,
these cross.
segment basically.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. But then we still have some tools that is only connected to the CRM system, and we're kind of fine with this, saying it's okay that we have what is called an add-on to HubSpot, as long
Mm-hmm.
as it's only connected to HubSpot and don't get data feeded in from other different places, because then this is where it becomes complicated, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
then sync errors, what is not correct, what is correct, what is the
Sure.
source. So we're actually trying to consolidate as much as possible into HubSpot at the moment, just to simplify the setup and reduce costs. So this
Mm-hmm.
is one of the main focus areas that we are spending a lot of
So,
time on.
so then I suppose that if you have this in your team, you need to have different competencies, right?
Yeah,
So can you tell us a bit what kind of roles are there among competencies? Because if I look at this, I see that okay, you need to have somebody for Looker, somebody who helps the sales guys, somebody who
yeah,
does the marketing, does you
yeah,
need to have somebody for census, so
yeah,
on
yeah,
and so forth, right?
yeah. So our RevOps is built around what is it? We five, six teams at the moment. So there is a pricing team handling everything pricing related, looking at how can we optimize our pricing model. how can we roll out pricing changes, renewal processes, all these things. Then we have an enablement team doing all the enablement on sales and CX, like how to sell, orchestrating the different trainings and things like that. Then we have a data analytics team that is doing all the Looker reporting. Then we have strategic projects, I think they're called, that is kind of running big projects. That sits a bit outside, focusing on only running new projects, new initiatives. Then we have what we call strategic planning. They are more the one doing all the board reporting, forecasting, all of these, making sure that these are aligned, following up on the numbers. And then we have the two teams left, one which is called the process operation and data. That is more the traditional ops kind of team, looking into following up with sales, handling tickets, making sure that leads are signed, so on and so forth. And then we have the last team, being my team, that is called business architecture and technology. We're kind of sitting on the technology part of it. So we are handling the tools and the processes in the tools and the data between the tools. So my team is heavily focusing on tooling, and the architecture of that tooling. And my team consists of people who focusing on data, so piping data in and out, but also automation and engineering within these teams.
So you have developers also, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
So from these teams, like I would like to dig in a little bit into pricing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because that's something interesting. What I'm hearing from you, that within RevOps you have a pricing team, right?
Yeah.
Like how are they how are they working? Like what exactly do they do daily? Do you know?
It is that there is two functionalities, right? There is the deal disk functionality in terms of making sure whatever new deals that we're doing, following certain criteria and standards, right? So that is, we don't sell something to a customer that is not making sense from a marginal perspective. So a traditional deal disk. And then there is the other one in terms of looking into pricing, where what should be the price of our products, what is a good fit, like what features should we put in the different pricing plans, all of these things. And it's a lot of it is based on historical data. So just looking at what our customer using, what are they paying, what are we selling, what are we not selling, and then also looking into like customer interviews in terms of feedback we get for a customer, like close loss deals. What are we losing for? What competitors? What are the competitors offering?
So the win-loss
Yeah,
analysis will
exactly,
be done by them,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Okay. So when it comes to deal desk, this would mean that I'm a account manager. I'm doing a proposal,
yeah,
and deal desk gives me a framework on how to do this proposal. Also gives me some kind of guidance on the quotations, on the discounts,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're basically automated out of HubSpot, a process where a rep selects 5 or 6 data points. So this is how many users, what pricing plan, a commitment, payment terms, and then discount percentage. Based on that, HubSpot automatically generates the quote. And then we've built in some certain criteria saying, yeah, but if the discount percentage is above a certain threshold, in a certain market, then it hits an approval flow and needs to be approved by the manager or the senior manager or the deal desk. The ones that actually goes to deal desk is typically the one that falls outside. So custom agreements where they want to change some of the terms, conditions, or really big deals where they are bigger discount or things like that, right? But
Got
but the rep don't generate the quote themselves. They kind of have a quote generator generating the quote and the line items in the quote, and then that triggers an approval flow.
Got it. And when it comes to strategic projects, this would be whenever I just want to understand this project
Yeah,
aspect. Is it like more a campaign, a GTM, or it's a bigger project saying, I don't know, we need to set up our lead scoring, and that's the project, right?
yeah.
How?
It is more like a lead scoring.
Mhm,
Like how do we separate product versus sales led? What we've done a lot is what we're looking into different customers and scoring. So for a CSM or a salesperson to look at a customer with what do we have hundreds of different data points and know what should I actually sell this customer is really
mhm,
difficult. So what they've done in that team is they've built a lot of different triggers that saying, yeah, but this customer has not done certain activities, but have done certain activities. We have historical seen that you can sell this product to them. So that when they hit that threshold, a task
mhm.
would be created for the rep or the CSM to saying, watch out, they're potentially churning, or upsell them this feature because they are hitting certain thresholds. This could be, like, this has been one of these projects that they've been working on optimizing kind of the go to market, the activities that a person, a salesperson needs to go to. So trying to move it away from having the individual person actually know what to look for and simply just feeding them the task to sell.
Man, I love it. Like it's really complex. It's really interesting how you set it up. Like
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
hands down,
it
right?
is,
Like really,
it is
it's amazing.
really impressive. I can't take credit for it. I haven't delivered it, but it is a really interesting project to see how much you can actually go
Hmm.
around and create these terms of triggers.
So I'm just curious now. Before we end, let's talk a bit about 2023,
Yeah,
right? What was the did you see any shift like in terms of RevOps? Like
yeah.
initially you planned to do something and then in the end you ended up doing something totally different. And why did you shift?
I think the total market of SaaS startups changed. So
Mm,
22 was a lot of grow at all costs, where now it becomes more economical friendly growth, right? We shouldn't
mm-hmm,
grow at all costs. So in 22, we were just adding project tools, whatever. People saying, yeah, we need this, and there was, it sounds wrong, but the limit of funding was not that difficult, right? So if you wanted to buy a tool, the business case didn't need to be that good, right?
yeah.
Uh, where now it is more in terms of saying, okay, how can we optimize and simplify what we're actually having to make it more streamlined and making more financial friendly, economical growth.
Mm-hmm,
Um, which I must say, sitting in RevOps and the team responsible for the technology have been giving us a bit of breathing space to actually stop up and saying, yeah, we have a lot of technical depth that we need to remove to be able to actually make sure that we can scale later on, right? Because adding a lot of different tools, I think we grew, yeah. I remember there was one month where we added 30% of the workforce in one single month. A kind of like when you're growing that fast, not everything is implemented 100%.
yeah, of
So
course.
having a bit of time to actually step back and saying, okay, what can we remove? What complexity can we remove? It helps a lot, and we saved a lot of, removed a lot of tools, saved a lot of cost, but also from my perspective, removed a lot of complexity. That's making it a lot easier also to be agile and change direction.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm,
think going into next year, that was most likely be the same agenda. How can we simplify our setup and make it more scalable in a structured way?
mm-hmm,
eh,
mm-hmm. And do you
Which,
see like you work with RPA, you worked with a different type of automation before, and you saw the corporate world, right? Like
yeah,
because majority of these companies that implement automation and RPA and so on were in corporate, and
yeah,
startups were not in this mindset, right? So now
yeah,
I suppose that we have a lot to learn from the corporates in a way on the process side. Do you guys see that you like in general on how you see you believe that startups in a way the same level as you guys are lack of these competencies of process improvement, of cost optimization, because we are coming with a mindset of growth at all cost, right?
Yeah, yeah. There is definitely something where we are just doing the quick fix because we need something now instead of looking at what problems it might give us down the line. But I must also say, and this is also why I said in the start, I was not sure I was fit for a startup because I've
Mm-hmm.
been working on RPA, like software robotics,
Mm-hmm.
implementing a big organization. And the places where big organizations implement RPA is typically where the process is broken, right? And you
Yeah.
cannot fix it with correct automation. It is a duct tape solution that you're putting on top of the user interface. So my statement was like, I have learned how much to fix all the errors. This is not what you want to implement in a startup because the second you in a startup implement software robotics, then you already failed.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think there is a bit of learning in terms of what not to do. Definitely.
That's great. And when it comes to hiring,
Yeah,
mm, like you, I want just to understand how you believe 2023, 2024 changed the competency metrics of hiring, right? Because
yeah.
again, we are talking about economical friendly, as you put it, and growth at all costs. Like, what were the competencies that were in 2022 versus what we had this year and what we will have next year?
I think in 22 it's more focusing on just hiring front end staff, so hiring salespeople,
Mm-hmm.
because you could see by every sales rep I add that much revenue. Where now they're looking more in terms of saying, yeah, but if I hire someone in operation, then I can improve all the sales reps with X percentage. So the incentive to hire people in the backend, revenue operations and things like that, has been a lot more attractive for a company
Mm-hmm.
like Pleo. So I think actually my team is looking into getting resources instead of them just adding resources to sales and saying, yeah, but operation just have to manage whatever they're having. So I think that we are getting resources. I hope that we are getting resources. At least I can hear the mindset have shifted because they can see the value of optimizing 1% here and there because it hits across all the sales reps.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So
so
more optimization,
yeah,
and I cannot end without asking about AI and if you guys do anything around that, because you know it wouldn't be a 2023 podcast if I would not ask you. Nevertheless, I left it at the end
yeah.
so that we don't sabotage it with
Of,
AI.
of course, Pleo is doing AI. We have our own team developing our internal AI setups. The biggest issue is of course GDPR and data
Hmm.
protectivity. So that one is of course a big topic of ours. How can we enable AI without compromising our customers' data? But then also the question is also all the tools are running out and rolling out AI features.
Yeah.
And this is one of the conversations I have with a lot of stakeholders is in terms of saying we could build this, this, and this, where I saying, yeah, but if we sit tight, HubSpot is going to roll it out in 3 months. So I would rather just wait and then let someone else build it in 3 months and then it works integrated with our system instead of us building something hacking that will work and requires a lot of cost because we need to sit down and saying what is the benefit of us getting there 3 months before them uh, compared to just rolling something out that
But
works
Jeppe, where
consistently.
do you see AI helping in RevOps for you
Um,
guys specifically?
like for me, it's a lot in terms of a big nice feature from HubSpot is just workflow descriptions. As simple as that, right? Uh, we had 800 workflows, no description of what they're doing. Now it's at least a lot easier for someone in the team to just generate a description, and it hits it 80-90% of the time. It's quite good. Uh, Creating of reports, summarizing of call. I think that is where when we start looking at all the different engagements, summarizing a customer, so prepping a salesperson to actually enter a call with as much information about that customer, that is where we will create the difference with AI.
So logging in information mainly, right? So
Yeah,
it's the basic as workflow description.
yeah,
You don't know how painful that is if you didn't do a lot of workflows.
yeah,
So that's definitely good. And helping um, sales reps, especially,
yeah,
log in, adopt the tool, and make
yeah,
it easier to give you feedback that later
yeah,
on you can analyze, right? So
yeah.
this is definitely there. Do you guys think of because I'm seeing a lot of use cases where you create your own some kind of GPT based on the data of your business, right? So from accounting to understanding where you had profit margins from which user base, what are those segments that are having the highest lifetime value in which regions, so on and so forth, simple as GPT. Would this help you to give the power of data without technical knowledge, to top management or to investors or whoever wants to find out in real time what's happening in the business?
I think all use cases are up for grab. We have a whole dedicated team on just looking into different AI possibilities, both within our own product, but
Mm,
also to support the different teams that is working from everything from engineering to sales to CX to marketing, from generating blog posts to identifying potential churn customers. So
mhm.
everything is up for grab. But I think the big impact is yet to come. And I think definitely next year we will start seeing
Yeah,
that the
that would
product
be
becomes so
interesting.
mature that they're starting adding value.
Thanks, Jeppe. Thanks a lot for this late discussion. Enjoy your Christmas holidays, and we are in touch. Thanks a lot for joining our podcast.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Jeppe.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.